I need to know how to move forward, so we do that. So what it does is it gives them this whole network of individuals that is able to hold on to this family and be able to serve them in a way that no other program has been able to do in the past.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
And then Healing Pathways, instead of that family having to go out and say, can you help me? Healing Pathways says, I can help you. Same thing with Ad Hoc Group Against Crime. Ad Hoc Group Against Crime provides any kind of counseling services for free to an adult. So the adult then will get a phone call and they'll say, can we give you any kind of grief services? And they say yes, no, maybe so, whatever they want to say.
Right.
Rather than them having to say, can you help me find grief counseling? So these then are provided immediately. We've got one program that does mentoring. We have one program that does conflict resolution. We have two programs that do support groups. We do a seminar, which is not really a support group. What we do is more on the social work aspect, being a social worker, using the social system to meet the need of the client. We do a grief to relief program, and grief is an acronym for groups. So G is the different groups in the area. R is for reporters. So we bring in people that are like the anchors from different news stations, or we bring in reporters from newspapers, whatever, so that we can de-vilify the media and people can understand that the media can be a tool to help you get your case solved. Then I is for investigation. We'll bring in the captain of the homicide squad from the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. We'll bring in other investigators from different police departments so that people can ask their questions and they can say, how's the best way to talk to my investigator? What is, the status of my case? What can I do? E is for enforcement, which is prosecutors in the case. So you've got actual court personnel that will come in and they'll talk to the people about that, what to expect when you go to court. And F is for moving forward. There is no moving on. There's no getting over. There is no closure. Those are all myths that people like to try and feed us. But don't ever ask me if I'm ever going to get over Cory, because there's no way. Because I chose to be his mother for the rest of my life, not his. Okay? And I'm going to be Cory's mom to the day I die. So, like a little while ago, you said Cory's no longer in the picture, but Cory to me will always be in the picture. So we try to help people understand that I'll move forward. Cory's always going to be part of me, but I need to know how to move forward, so we do that. So what it does is it gives them this whole network of individuals that is able to hold on to this family and be able to serve them in a way that no other program has been able to do in the past. So in one way, we are Cory's all-encompassing programs.
Yes. I think it's important. You said, and I think this is important for everybody to know, business owners and not business owners, just in the world. You said there's no getting over it. It's moving forward. And I've been doing a lot of research on trauma recently, and you've processed the trauma, right? It's not gone. It's a way of processing it. And I'm assuming that you had a unique ability to process that, given your past, dealing with in the prison system and being around so much negative behavior in your life, that you had specific coping skills on processing grief and processing trauma. And that's, I'm assuming, what helped you tremendously in moving forward?
That is still very, very difficult for me. And then I'm able to do something that a lot of other people can't do because of my profession. And that's being able to put my professional side and my personal side into two different sections. And it's kind of like a doctor who goes into a hospital and is able to perform surgery after surgery after surgery after surgery, and then go home to their family and be able to be a productive part of society outside of the operating room. And social workers have to do that as well. If you deal with nothing but abused and battered kids all day long, and then you have to go home and deal with your own children, it's really difficult.
And be happy somehow.
And somehow be happy and not beat your children. It's really a difficult way to do it. And so you have to kind of separate those two things. So when I told the story about how my son died, I teared up a little bit. But on the other side, to me, this is a conversation about my professional role versus my role as his mom. And if I told you my role as his mom, I'd probably be a blubbering nut right now. But yes, in a way, it did help me, because to me, it was a call to arms. And I know that some of your watchers may or may not believe in God. And a lot of people will come up and they'll say, well, this is God must have had a plan, and this is God's plan that Cory was murdered. No, God does not plan for people to be murdered, or he would not have put it in his top 10 do not do list. Okay? He did not say, thou shalt not kill thousands of years ago if he planned on my son being murdered.
Right.
Okay. But what he did do is he knew my son was going to be murdered, and he knew I was going to have to deal with it. And he gave me the ability to do what I do now.
So needed what you do now. And it's challenging, and it's heartbreaking on a regular basis. And the world needs more strong people like you that can be there for people in their weakest moments. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing. And it's a tragedy on how you got here, but you're helping the world grieve and overcome. And if you don't do that, then you're just going to inevitably be another negative force in our universe, which is not a good thing either. So now you've got a background going on.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what's going on back there and behind you in the background? Well,
the very first year that Cory was murdered, we had a vigil for Cory. And by the way, 3.5 years in, I want to bring this around. This will be part of this background here. 3.5 years in, they finally did ask the man if he killed Cory Lakovich, and he said, yes, I did. Confession. That was it. He'd been arrested 8 other times by the exact same police department, had 8 other people that he'd offended in different ways. And they finally decided, hey, let's get Shelly Norris out of our hair, and let's go ahead and ask him if he did it. And he said, yeah, I did it. So he ended up getting 9 years. Missouri has a 2/3 out, because the only piece of evidence they collected, I saw that look on your face, Ken, the only piece of evidence that they collected on my son was that man's confession, because the detective allowed the hospital to throw my son's clothes away. They did not find the homicide scene because they kept thinking that it was something that my son and I were covering up. Okay, they couldn't figure out that it was at the picnic table. Okay, even though they had the physical marks on my son's knees, and my other son said it would probably be at the picnic table. They didn't figure that out until 3 years into it. And there was no blood, evidence, nothing inside of my home because he bled internally. Okay. There was no knife in my home, so they didn't find a knife. There was nothing, so they had no evidence at all. My son didn't have enough time to turn around to fight this man. And like I said, I don't know if I told you this, but I'm a black belt, and my son was like one stripe away or one belt away from being a black belt. He could have defended himself, but he couldn't turn around quick enough, so he didn't have DNA under his fingernails. So he had nothing. The only piece of evidence they had in this case was the man said, yes, I killed Cory Lakovich. So
it's such a shame.
Yeah. So he got 9 years in voluntary manslaughter. Sorry, misspoke. There's a 2/3 out law in Missouri, so that meant 6 years. That meant that when he got into a program in the Department of Corrections for his drug addiction, he got an extra year off. He ended up doing 5 years. And 3 weeks ago, this man was released from prison for killing my son. When they picked him up, and the time that he was actually questioned about my son, he was picked up with a sawed-off shotgun. So he is still currently in prison, but he's in a federal prison doing 5 years and 3 months for a sawed-off shotgun. So he's going to do more time because he had a gun than he did because he killed my son. So with that being said, I know, but it's our justice system, and either we have to change it or we have to live with it. And change only comes from those that are uncomfortable. So if you're uncomfortable with it, people, change it. Okay? I'm doing my damnedest. So if you want to join me, please step forward. The next portion, what you were asking about, what's behind me. Every year until my son's case was solved, we had a vigil on the weekend that he was killed. He left my house on Friday night. He was fine. Saturday morning, 2 a.m., he'd been attacked. Sunday afternoon, he died. So every last Sunday of July, we have had a vigil. And the first year, of course, it was just Cory. The second year, because we had started Cory's Network, we said, if you've got an unsolved homicide, bring it out. So we had a couple of people that came out. The next year, we had a few more people that came out that was unsolved. That was the third year. That was only 2 years after it. Third year, we had more people. Well, by the fourth year, we went ahead and we just made it an unsolved homicide vigil. And every year since then, it's grown and it's grown and it's grown. And we've opened it up to anyone in the Kansas City metropolitan area or surrounding area. We don't care. We don't play favorites. And people would come out, and we'd have maybe 20 or 30 people that were part of it. And they would hold up signs, and they would, you can see in the background back there, that was actually Cory's dentist office. Okay. And this field that is behind me is where, Cory was walking not too far from there when he actually ran into the friend. And then back behind the office is where Cory was walking, that he went and sat down at the picnic table. So, with that being said, it's in the neighborhood. So they know him. The neighbors know him. So this was the most poetic place to have this vigil. So they would stand out there, they would hand out their flyers, they would give them to people, etc. And that way they were able to give information in a nice neighborhood where there's a mall, where there's a JCPenney's, there's a Target, there's restaurants, and etc. And bring some attention to homicides that are affecting the entire Kansas City metropolitan area. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, you can't do a vigil outside. So what we did was we created these flyers that you see behind me, and I can show you. So those flyers that you're seeing behind me, we created those digitally, and we ended up making 350 of them that we knew of unsolved homicides in the first year in 2020. And we started on Friday morning, same weekend. We had all of our community partners, all those partners I named off earlier. They agreed to go ahead and put those same exact posters on their Facebook pages, their Instagrams, etc., and pump them through every 5 to 10 minutes. And I think the first time we did it, it was every 10 minutes from 9 a.m. Friday till 9 p.m. Sunday. And so every single one of them went through and just continuously put those pictures through. And by the time we were done, it reached well over 1 million people. So we're like, you know what? This is not bad. So then last year, the thing is that people started like sending us things saying, hey, you don't have a picture of my son, so can you make one for us? And then the same thing happened for daughters and mothers and my grandson and my uncle and my best friend from high school. And these go back to 1970.
Wow.
Okay. So last year we hit 530. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This year, what you're looking at is 680.
Wow.
Okay.
That number is only going to grow for you.
It's only going to continue to grow. And that goes back to 1970. And matter of fact, at this time, we now have over 700 because more came out of the woodwork as we were going. And here's the thing. You ready for this, Ken? I've never, ever taken one dime for what we do for Cory's Network. Cory's
You're not
Network.
even getting a salary for running the charity.
No, we do not get any salaries. There are 9 board members, and we run all of this for free. We have also helped pay for over 350 funerals and put over $100,000 back into our community. None of this has gone into our pockets.
Wonderful.
Not one damn dime.
Before we go,
Okay.
Shelly, what does Cory's Network need now? If somebody's watching and they can help out in any way, if it's $1 or $100,000, anywhere in between, time, resources, what is it that Cory's Network needs today? And
Cory's Network needs money because we need to be able to continue to pay for funerals. As you can see, there's 680, and this isn't even a picture of the entire group. I mean, I can move a little bit here so you can see that. Okay. This isn't even the entire group. This is just a small portion of it. We need to be able to help people pay for funerals, and it's not stopping. The other part of it is we need to be able to have these pictures out there so that people will actually help finish tying up the loose knots. This isn't closure. This is not moving on. This is not anything else. Help us solve these crimes.
Right.
Help us solve these crimes. There's one family that has been waiting since 1970 to get some kind of an answer. I don't even say justice anymore. I told you how bad it was for my family. We didn't get justice. We got an answer, though, and it cleared my other son's name, and it cleared my name. That's not justice, though.
No, what you got was not justice. It's vacating, I think.
If you can at least give them answers and give them something that they can say, okay, now I know, and now I can rest. That is something that they can hold on to.
Yes.
If you can look at those pictures that you're going to be scrolling across your screen and say, damn, I do know something about that, and be able to call the TIPS hotline, do it. Do it.
Yes.
I'm not going to get any money for it. I'm not making a commission. All I want you to do is be able to help these people sleep at night. if you can do anything, if you're a counselor and you can give free counseling, if you are a person that's got an apartment complex and you can lower your rent for somebody whose house has been shot up, do that. If you're somebody who knows about a family that, I've got lots of families that they can't drive anywhere because
they don't have the internet.
Exactly.
Like, when you're going through a trauma like that and you lost somebody that's really, really close to you, I mean, I'm most people have gone through some loss in their life. Everybody knows your limbs are weak. You can't move very well. It's traumatizing. It's a miserable experience that they go through. And it's been my experience. The only thing that even somewhat helps is having a community around you and people to talk to and people you can love and hold and move forward with.
And one of the things that I really, really want to make sure that people understand is that I named Cory's Network because there is nothing more frightening than for you to stop saying my son's name. If you know someone who has a murdered loved one, don't ever stop saying their name. Ever. Talk to them. Tell them wonderful stories. Ask them about their loved one. Ask them any kind of a funny story, any kind of a good memory they might have. Ask them how they're feeling. Do not say, if there's something I can do for you, please let me know. That's not going to help. Go over and mow their lawn if they've lost their son. Go over and bring them dinner. Don't make it lasagna because lasagna is done. Okay. I had 7 of them in the first week that my son was gone. And I'm going to tell you lasagna is overdone. But 6 weeks out, bring them something. Sloppy Joes. Do something.
Right.
Do something for them. Don't just say, if I can, let me know, because they're not going to know what they need. They do not know what they're needing. What they need is for you to know how bad they hurt, not how they hurt, but how bad they hurt. And they need you to hold them, love them, and take care of them.
So insightful, Shelly. One last time, and I've got one question for you after this. One last time, if somebody wanted to contribute or know more about the program, how can they find out? We'll throw all the URLs right here at the bottom.
coreysnetwork.org, coreysnetwork.org. Did I say com? It should be org. Sorry.
We'll put that at the bottom.
Thank you. And you can go to Facebook, and it's Cory's Network Incorporated. You'll see 2 hands holding at the top. And then there's like a yin-yang looking thing in purple and red. You can also contact us at coreysnetwork@gmail.com. And we have a 24-hour hotline. Please don't call after 9 o'clock unless it's an emergency. It's 816-834-9161.
Wonderful. And to wrap up today's show, Shelly, can you tell us your favorite story about Cory?
Absolutely. Cory was a very, very giving guy. And he, one day, my older sister it was around Christmas, obviously. It was like about 2 weeks before Christmas. Cory was 19, and he was working as a busboy at an O'Charlie's. And my sister called me, and I was supposed to be driving Cory to work, and Kathy called, and she was crying because she was not very financially stable at the moment, and she had 6 children, and her husband were not going to be able to pay for a lot of Christmas gifts. And so I hung up, and Cory said, "Mom, I've got some extra money. Do you have some extra money?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Let's make some Christmas." And I said, "Okay, what do you got in mind?" So we talked about it a little bit, and I dropped him off at work, and then I picked him up, 10 o'clock that night. We went over to Walmart and we got each one of the 6 kids a gift card. And then we got a bigger gift card to Price Chopper, which is grocery store for those of you that may not have it. And then we went back home and we printed out stickers for each one of the gift cards to each one of the different kids. And we printed out cards that said, "Dear James, this is Santa. I don't have enough time to buy a gift for Jacob. Could you please buy him a gift? And I'll really appreciate it. Love, Santa." And then everybody got a card for a different person. So it was a Secret Santa kind of a thing. And then, of course, Kathy's was, Kathy and Dean, you know, I know that times are hard. Please have a nice Christmas dinner on me. Love, Santa. And we did it all on printer because I've got very noticeable handwriting, and Cory was chicken scratch. It was terrible handwriting. So he made me wait until midnight. We drove 20 minutes to the next city, which is Blue Springs. And he made me drive around the block 3 times. I'm in the little Corolla, first of all. I want you to know this, okay? Drive around the block 3 times, make sure that his Aunt Kathy was asleep, and makes me park 3 houses away from her, okay? So he gets out of the car and he's real quiet. He shuts the door. He takes that envelope and he's tiptoeing like Pink Panther. And he's hiding behind things and he's scooching along. And it's just every little tiny thing. He's like hiding behind a bush. He's hiding behind a pole. And I mean, he's just everything squishing down on the ground. And he finally gets over to the damn mailbox and it goes, spur, and he goes, shoves that in there, slams it, and he comes running back over, jumps in the car, gets down into the bottom of the floorboard of that tiny Corolla, right? And he goes, "Go, Mom, go, I think she hurt me." And we're just busting a gut because he just made such a big deal about this. And of course, I try to squeal my wheels. You can't do that in a Corolla. It goes, and that's it. So we take off. We laugh the whole 20 minutes home, right? And the next day, my sister calls, and she's just bawling. And she says, "Shelly, you're not going to believe what happened." And I said, "What?" And I put it on speaker because Cory was right there. She said, "You're not going to believe this, but somebody left this amazing gift in my mailbox." And she was calling to ask me if I would be willing just to walk with one of her daughters through Walmart while the rest of them shopped, because the one was too young to shop by herself.
Yeah.
And she was talking about this amazing miracle. And I look up and there's Cory just bawling. And my sister didn't know until the day he died that it was him. And if you've got just one moment,
I do.
I would like to show you one picture of my son. You can find him. I don't know if you can see him in that.
See the younger one? Middle?
He's this one right here. That's my oldest son in the purplish shirt right here.
Okay. Yes.
Right there.
Yes.
That's Cory. He was always shorter than his brothers. And you can see that he's laughing. And the taller one here, that, believe it or not, was like a year younger than him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But Cory was cracking up because he just looked in the camera lens or the camera thing, and he said, "Mom, we look like the Addams Family." And he said that, and then all of a sudden, all the 3 of them started going da 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 da. So that's my son, and he's laughing his ass off right there. And I'd give anything to hear him laugh.
Shelly, thank you so much for your time today and your stories. I very much appreciate it. I know it wasn't easy for you rehashing some of this stuff. Thank you so much for what you're doing for the world and your community, on bringing awareness and being there for people in most likely their most troubling times, and creating a business or a non-for-profit around that is a beautiful thing. And congratulations for finding the strength and doing that in your time of tragedy.
Thank you.
I hope you have a
I
great
appreciate
day.
you having me on. And if anyone
I
wants
appreciate
to
you
help,
coming. A little different than we normally do, but it's important stuff. And, people in today's world come up with all kinds of excuses on why they don't follow their dreams or passions. And I feel like you don't feel like this is a dream or passion, but an obligation that you have to the world, to help other people that were in a time of need when they're left with no resources like you were. So it's admirable. And I hope more people take your path.
I hope that, people understand that it's our responsibility to teach our children how to deal with the worst day of their life.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
that's what this whole thing is based on. Teaching the next generation how to deal with it.
Right.
So that next generation, we won't have all of these terrible murders here.
Yes. And we will talk again, Shelly. I hope you have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.